Is this on? There it is. Good morning, one and all. Welcome to Unity of Port Townsend, a spiritual community that is true Anamkara, true soul friends. And so I'm so thrilled you're all here on this exquisite Port Townsend day. Whether you're here in person or you're joining us on Zoom, we are truly of one heart and one presence. Wherever it is our bodies are, our souls are united. And I bring blessings this morning. I just spoke with Rhonda Hull, and she is at her niece's house and is recovering well. She is still having migraines, so we need to all send prayers for ease for her migraine. She said her hip surgery went well, not too much pain for that, and her niece has a dog who loves Rhonda, but just having hip replacement, you can't have a dog bouncing around. So the dog is at the door to her bedroom, breathing like Darth Vader under the door. And Diane Vaux was in the hospital last Sunday with cellulitis that had returned. She is home now and doing well. They needed to do IV antibiotics to kind of get it under control to start with, but she's home now, and our wonderful TLC team that Tom is coordinating has been taking her some meals. So Rhonda's going to be at her niece's until after her follow-up, and companioned with a dog that breathes like Darth Vader. And speaking of dogs, I decided this is my last Sunday before I'm back giving the Sunday messages. You're going to be blessed with Tom Drake this morning. Woo! He's an ordained Presbyterian minister that's now unity through and through, heart and soul. And so he'll speak today. I'll be back next Sunday, and so I decided that it would be fun to just come as casual me instead of dressed up. So this is my philosophy, how I start each day. Wake up, drink coffee, and pet all the dogs. So that's me in casual mode, and we're family, and so I can't think of a better way to be with family than to just come as I am. So, welcome to Unity. We're going to sing Come Light, Light of God as we light the Christ candle. And as we light this, let's send a wave of special love and prayer and healing blessings to Diane and to Rhonda. Come light, light of God, give light to creation. Enlighten our hearts and remain with your world. Come light, light of God, give light to creation. Enlighten our hearts and remain with your world. Oh, and let's say who and what we are as a spiritual family. We are an authentic, transformative, spiritual community centered in God. We co-create a world that works for all. And we believe in the words of Teilhard de Chardin, love is the affinity which links and draws together the elements of the world. Love, in fact, is the agent of universal synthesis. And love is sacred reserve of energy. It is the blood of spiritual evolution. Love. And so knowing and believing in the power of love and grace, I invite you now to stand, and we're going to sing I Am Home as our opening song to settle in together this day, wherever you are.
I am home, I am home. I have traveled far along this road, and now I'm home. Shalom, shalom, in the love of God.
Zoom without a camera. So today is going to be a really interesting morning. We look forward to Tom's talk about a world that works for all. And I was thinking about that in the last couple of days, and I got three quotes I'd like to share with you that kind of moves us in that progression. One is from a guy named Pierre Pondervond, and he wrote a book called The Gentle Art of Blessing, which we'll hear about later in November. The most important choices we make in life are not the dynamic turning points such as a change of our career, a person that we marry, the country that we immigrate to. The most important choices are the thoughts and feelings we choose to entertain moment after moment, day after day. They shape our lives more surely than any outward circumstance. And then from Werner Erhard, we are, as a culture and as a species, in the midst of a great awakening, remembering that there is a nature of things inherent, a divine design. The more aware of and in alignment we are with that design that we become, the more we will experience the deep desires of our hearts and souls, and just perhaps together we truly can create a world that works for everyone. And then from Apostle Paul, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what is good, what is pleasing, and what is perfect in the will of God, the expression of our divine purpose. And that brings us right into the daily word. Today's word is purpose. You might want to call it divine purpose. I pursue my purpose with passion. Over the course of my life, I've discovered what has kindled my passions, captured my attention, and made me feel most alive. My passions lead me to discover my purpose, in which I choose to devote my time and my life. My highest spiritual purpose is to live from my divine nature, my divine gifts of life, love, and wisdom expressed uniquely through my passions, fulfilling me while demonstrating the truth of my being to the world. I listen to that still small voice of spirit within to discern the best way to fulfill my purpose. I heed its call to learn, to discover, to grow. It is never too early or too late to embark upon a journey of a lifetime. I am ready, willing, and more than able. And from John, for this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. I pursue my purpose with passion. Tom?
Let's begin our meditation. There, okay? Good. All righty. We've been doing things a little differently here the last few weeks. Some of you may have noticed that. When Lisa was here, she sang. I will not afflict you with that. And when Karen was here, we had videos and slides and all that, and we were learning new technology with that. And today, you may have noticed that there's only one side on the song sheet. That's because we're going to be listening as part of the meditation to some CDs. Part of my evening each night is to listen to music as I do meditation. And I often listen to some of Simon's songs. There's two of mine which are the favorites and the last things I listen to before I go to bed every night. And I want to share them here this morning as well. So first we will sing Sanctuary, and then we will move into that part of our time together here.
Lord, prepare me to be a open-hearted, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I am a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, open-hearted, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I am a living sanctuary for you.
We are an authentic, transformative, spiritual community. Centered in God, we co-create a world that works for all. And I'd like to start that theme with our meditation this morning, which is going to be Simon singing the prayer of St. Francis, one of my favorites. It's interesting that the prayer of St. Francis wasn't something that St. Francis actually prayed. The prayer of St. Francis first appeared in 1912 in a French Roman Catholic magazine. Nobody knows who wrote it, and the original is in French, not Latin. We often hear the opening words as, "Lord, makes me an instrument of your peace," which is the original translation from the French. When Simon sings it, he says, "Lord, make me a channel of your peace." Something very similar, but a little different in context. An instrument is a means by which something is achieved or performed or furthered. Like an instrument is the means by which the music is made. A channel makes you think of a waterway or something like that. A direction, a current of thought and action. We will think of it both ways, but Simon's going to be using it as a channel. And there's three things in particular I'd like you to pick up in this if you haven't heard it before. Simon gets very creative at points. And there's three parts. Grant that I can see through my human pain and still feel loved. Allow me to learn to forgive a few more 100 times. And through my own pain and need, will I learn to understand. We enter life as immaculate beings full of potential, which we seem to lose by yards and win back by inches on our life's journey. And then at some point, we die to a part of ourselves. And suddenly, out of that death, we experience a resurrection, a harvest of everything we were and are and shall be. Literally raised to a whole new dimension of being. I ask you to settle in now. Close your eyes. And simply reflect on Simon's words.
Lord, make me a channel of your peace. Grant that I can see through my human pain and still feel loved. the darkness, let light be found in here. Lord, make me a channel of your peace. We all need to learn to forgive a few more hundred times. Melt our hatred, let love take root in our hearts. Lord, make me a channel of your peace. Through my own pain and need, I will learn to understand. Reach through our sorrow, let it be joy. Oh, let it be joy. Lord, make me a channel of peace in my life.
Amen. Claire?
The song is called These Times, and it's written by Robert Anderson. And he and Sandy have a group called Devotion. I'm on. I'm on. What? Now am I on? Okay. I can hear such sadness in the voices of my friends, talking about this world and its pain. But we must not lose heart, we cannot give up hope, for long have we journeyed, waiting for this day. These times, these times, these times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But this path makes us stronger the higher we climb, and we were made for these times. Let us turn our fears into courage, into faith. Out Didn't we say we are believers? Didn't we ask for grace? We must remember right now we are needed to stand and shine our light in this hour, in this place. These times, these times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But this path makes us stronger the higher we climb. We were made for these times. These times seem so uncertain, so unkind. We shall use our voices, we will not walk blind. We were made for these times. Whoa, our hearts were made for these times.
There's no greater commandment than that we love each other. And yet, in this time of divisiveness, there's perhaps no greater challenge. How may we love then when so pervasive is the mentality of us versus them? I'm right. You're just wrong. And the resentment, the contempt, the offensiveness, the defensiveness, and even hatred seems now to pervade our daily lives. Every time we look at the news, every time we read the paper, these times. I'm going to share some words from someone whose talk I heard a while back. Her name is Sandra Melton, and she is retired minister at Unity Salt Lake City. And if you happen to be watching on Zoomland, I told you I would be stealing some of your stuff. I try to stay neutral in love, because that's the greatest commandment. And everything else shall pass, but love will expand us. And the prayer of St. Francis is a tool for centering in on how love can apply to our current situation, these times. So I'd like for us to contemplate this morning how we might live daily as instruments or channels for peace, co-creating a world that works for all. Jesus said, love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. And love your enemies. How in the world do we love our enemies? For me, an enemy is someone who wreaks havoc in my life or the lives of my friends or family. And that could be anyone who experiences a contentious relationship. A spouse, a sibling, your parents, your children, your neighbor, a politician, a political party. Maybe these days, even a best friend. I start by seeking to understand. Through my own pain and need, Simon's saying, may I learn to understand. To bring to mind someone who you might consider to be an enemy. Now, I'm seeking to understand. What is my enemy's best intention? Could it possibly be that they want what I want? The very best for their own well-being, their families, their communities, their country? Just like me? So what's the difference? It might be that they have a different solution. And by golly, my solution is the right one, and theirs is the wrong one. Whoa, I'm not going there. So the question is really, where may we find agreement? So consider that for a moment. Where might your enemy and you be in agreement? Let's start there. Now, I also understand that most people are running their default programming. We are running our default programming. Jesus understood the conditioned mind when he said, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. We know not what we do sometimes because we're running our program. Until we become aware of it and decide to choose differently. Now, we may think we're doing a pretty good job of it. I do sometimes. But please realize, when we are in any situation where I am right and you are wrong, I'm running my programming. I seek to forgive. How do I forgive when someone has caused me pain? A secret. Forgiveness is for me and my resentments. It's not for the other person. Resentment is like taking poison and hoping the other person's going to die. It settles down, this resentment, into our cells, creating heart attacks and strokes and cancer, a whole lot of self-destructive things. And if I want to live and thrive and flourish, be all that I can be as directed by the Spirit of love, I need to be willing to forgive and not swallow the poison. It starts, therefore, within me, and then moves on to how I relate with you. Several weeks ago, Pam mentioned a book, which kind of perked my ears up at the time. It was Jean Houston's book, Godspeed, which I had heard of her, but I have not read her, and so I went out and got a copy. And she says at one point something that I think is absolutely fascinating. I'm probably going to have to get my glasses on to read it. Second. It talks about rules of law versus rules of love. And she says, How can we characterize the teaching that promotes such a shift in consciousness? Starting forgiving me and my resentments rather than somebody else's actions. Trained in the Jewish faith and the Jewish way of thinking, Jesus seems to have had in mind a reformation, not a replacement of Judaism. Indeed, it seems that the nature of being Jewish is to live in a state of constant renewal and reform. Christ's point of view is clearly shown in Matthew 5 in the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus says, "Think not that I've come to abolish the law and the prophets. I haven't come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you," and whenever Jesus says, "Truly, truly I say to you," listen up. That's New Testament language for here comes something important. "For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished." The New Testament was originally written in Koine Greek. An iota is an I in Greek. The letter I. Small little letter. Not a small little letter will go away. The dot refers to Hebrew and Aramaic, where the dot in Hebrew is the vowel E. So instead of writing E, you put a dot. So for both Greeks and Jews, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Whoever then relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others so shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But who does them and teaches them shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Now, the kingdom of heaven, as Jesus talks about it, seems to relate to the depth of the world within. A point that's emphasized not only in Luke's gospel, but several of the Gnostic gospels as well. To say that the kingdom is within is a radical change in psycho-spiritual knowing, especially in certain aspects of the more legalistic Judaism of Jesus' day. And perhaps some of the more legalistic evangelicism and weaponizing of that now. That stance wasn't true of the depth level of Judaism back then or now, but legalism is always the temptation of religions in virtually all times and places as one tries to make oneself acceptable to God. And watch what Jesus does very skillfully. Someone came to Jesus and said, "Teacher, what's the greatest commandment in the law?" And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets." Love, not legalism, she concludes. Is the essential element of deep spirituality. Now, Lisa expressed this a few weeks ago when she was talking about compassion being the means to remove obstructions from one's love and life. Karen did the same thing from another perspective over the last 2 weeks, looking at how we learn to establish new ways of seeing, of understanding, of thinking about, of interpreting, embracing events and circumstances and hopes and dreams and acts of love, how we can change our perception of reality from an old state of being to a new state of being. I loved that slide in particular when that was up. With new thoughts evoking new choices, which lead to new actions and behaviors that create new experiences, which elicit new feelings that prompt new thoughts. And it goes on and on and on. I would really love to go to her class, which she's going to be starting on this, but it's the same time I get the coffee and stuff ready. So I have to make a choice on Sunday mornings, but I really like how she presented that. Same idea here, but from a slightly different metaphysical standpoint. So in the time I have left this morning, I'd like to suggest yet one other aspect of this kind of discussion, which I think has major implications for our time, for our era, for our lives. Three months ago, a book literally fell into my hands, right here in the Unity Library. Here it is. I was going through the bookshelf out there. Miss Lily does a wonderful job of adding books and rearranging them and things like that every Sunday. And I was going through a section, and this book literally fell out. Oh, okay. The Storm Before the Calm by Neil Donald Walsh, a New Human Manifesto. Okay. He wrote a series of books called Conversations with God. You might have heard of that. I had heard of them, but I hadn't read them. I still haven't read them. But this is the second part of that. It's another series called Conversations with Humanity. This came at a very timely moment for me, because just a little over 3 months ago, the friend who I have been serving as a caregiver for the last year and a half came to the point where she was semi-independent instead of totally bedridden and was able to reunite with family. It's a miracle. It is literally a miracle. And I am thrilled that that has happened. But when it did, after such an intense experience, I began to, okay, well, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? What happens? And what I often do, and tried to do on that occasion, although there's grief involved in having a friend like that go away. I said, all right, Lord, I surrender again. I open up. Whatever you want to do, show me. And she left on a Saturday, and the next Sunday, this falls into my hands. Okay, careful what I ask for. Walsh comes at this same question of how do we live in these times? How do we live out of love rather than legalism? He asks 7 simple questions leading to what he calls the overhaul of humanity, because I think there's nothing less than the total overhaul of humanity that we need to be looking at as people of faith. He says there's 3 persistent questions. 1, how is it possible that 6.9 billion people can all claim to want the same thing: peace, security, opportunity, prosperity, happiness, love, and be singularly unable to get it? 2, is it possible that there is something we don't fully understand about life, the understanding of which would change everything? And 3, is it possible there's something we don't fully understand about ourselves, about our own life and its purpose, the understanding of which would shift our reality and alter our experience for the better forever? These were quite relevant questions when I picked up the book. And then Walsh goes on to add 3 more questions, which he calls the 4 fundamental questions of life. Who am I? Not what am I, or whose am I, or why am I? It's who am I? Where am I? I'm 75, almost 76 years old. I live in Port Townsend. I live up there instead of over here. You know, all that. That's not what he's talking about. Where am I? Where am I really? Why am I where I am? Why am I where I am? And what do I intend to do about that? What is needed, he concludes, is not a revolution on the ground. It's a revolution in the mind. Change the way we look at something. When I got to this point in the book, I said, I'm going to try something really radical, Tom. Every morning when I wake up, first thing I usually do is go, groan, does my back hurt where today? And there's always an answer for that. Now I'm at the point where I'll wake up and the first thing I say to myself, this is going to be a great day. Today is going to be a great day. I have no idea what that means, but it's going to be a great day. And I don't know how many nights after listening to Simon, I say, thank you, Simon, for your wisdom and your singing, and thank you, Spirit. This was a great day. Day after day after day after day after day. The day isn't changing. It's how I look at it, how I appreciate it, how I approach it that changes. A revolution in the mind, not on the ground. And this led me to do something that is rather unusual for me. I haven't done it in years and years and years, and that is, here comes the commercial. I'm going to start a class in September, Wednesday mornings from 10 to noon, hopefully on Zoom as well as here, looking at this book. I'm not going to teach anything because you already know what's in here. It's how to put it together. I'm going to facilitate, and what Walsh calls for is a discussion of these 7 questions. And he's got a central website. This book was written in 2011, so it's still pretty relevant. He's got a website where he asks people from all over the country, all over the world, to submit comments and thoughts and directions suggested as a result of having this kind of discussion. What I'd like to do is have some people here, physically present, and have people on Zoom. And after the beginning, kind of a review of what that week's chapters were about, we're going to break out into groups. And how we're going to do that on Zoom, I'm not quite clear, but I'm told it can be done, and break out into physical groups. We'll spend time discussing some of the questions that he raises in the chapters that are presented for that day. Then we'll come together as a group, do a report, and submit the whole thing to the author, who lives in Oregon someplace, and see what we might be able to do to change the world, to save the world, with Spirit, to co-create a world that works for all. If you're interested, there's a sign-up sheet out in the lobby. And be thrilling if you or your friends, or pass the word on if you're on Zoom. Call the church office, put your name down, say you want to be on it in Zoom. We have ways to get books to you and all that kind of thing. So that we can together co-create. I've lost my glasses. There they go. Here's what Walsh says. Life proceeds out of our intentions for it. This is the fuel that drives the engines of creation in your life. It's important to understand that life is nothing but energy. It's energy organized. And who does the organizing? We do. Right? We do. Surprisingly, the answer is us. Life is pure energy that circles back onto itself. That is, life is a self-fueling, self-sustaining, self-determining, and self-creating process. It depends on itself, relies on itself, and looks to itself to tell itself what the next expression of itself shall be. This is true universally, it's true globally, it's true nationally, it's true locally, and it's true individually. It's merely a matter of proportion. And so we see the universe deciding about ourselves in this way, our planet deciding about itself in this way, climate change, for heaven's sakes. Our nation deciding about itself in this way. Our own city or community deciding itself about this way. You only have to talk about the controversy at the swimming pool, for heaven's sakes. And our own person deciding about itself in this way. Life informs life about life through the process of life itself. Life's information creates life information. At the most personal level, your information creates you in formation. You're constantly forming and reforming yourself, shaping and reshaping yourself, creating and recreating yourself anew. Indeed, the function of life is to recreate yourself anew in each golden moment of now. In the next grandest version of the greatest vision you ever held about who you are. That's all of it in a nutshell. We're doing it politically, we're doing it economically, we're doing it culturally, we're doing it racially, we're doing it socially, we're doing it sexually, we're doing it spiritually. This is all we are doing, and we're not doing anything else. Really? Here's what he concludes. This is what God is doing. God is recreating itself anew in the single and only moment called now. And life is God, Spirit, higher power doing this. Life is God expressing itself in an endless multiplicity of forms. You, me, y'all out there in Zoom land, every one of you are forms of God. You are, all of you, God's information. God in formation, and thus we move on. I am so thankful to have found this, and then right plop is the opportunity to share it with you guys. And so I'd like again, as we started, to close with a thought of meditation, contemplation, again using Simon. This is the last song I listen to every night because it is a song of thanksgiving. Magnificat. I invite you to close your eyes, settle in, and just listen.
My soul shall praise and magnify you, Lord. Yes, I will come. Yes, I have come. I hear your voice is calling out my name into my life. You shall be born. All generations praise to hold with me the sacred heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Proud cannot hear beyond their words, their thoughts enclosed, so stale and old. The rich cannot receive what they don't own. This emptiness, the spaciousness. All generations praise to hold with me the sacred heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Spread out the feast, let those in hunger come. Your face be shown, your love made known. The humble hear your voice, with you they sing. Magnificat, Magnificat. All generations praise to hold with me the sacred heart, my beating heart. My soul is placed into this fire of love. Yes, it becomes God's will be done. Reach out to touch the world that is to come. Magnificat, 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 Magnificat.
So be it. Thank you for listening. Hopefully for doing. Amen.
Recently, I had listening to the radio, and the song came on, and the chorus keeps rolling through my head. It's been going on for like 3 weeks. You might recognize it. Something out of the 60s. I just walked in to see what condition my condition was in. Thank you, Tom, for reminding us that we all walk in to find the condition that our condition is in and to do something about it. It's a, it's a blessing to be able to stand next to this gentleman and Pam and others that come on this stage and really talk about those things of the soul that move us, where we have a part to play, as small as we are individually, but how powerful we are individually. And to recognize that and live from that point of view is truly is a blessing. And I think before are we ready for the after? As I was leading up to the offering, we're going to have a song before that? No, we're into it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is a time in our service where we receive the offering. And that blessing of the offering, think of it in terms of the context of what Tom talked about just a little bit ago. Think about my role, your role, our role, and where the strength and power of that comes from. So together, let's bless our offering. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful. Okay. Thank you.
And now please join us in singing Blessing to the World. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are, and who we do is a blessing to the world.
Yes, indeed. I, you, we are a blessing to the world. And wouldn't it be wonderful if every person on this planet felt the same way? Walked from a place of blessing? Wow. I would think on earth. I would think that would be the kind of thing that God had in mind for this thing he calls life. She calls life, it calls life, it is life. I, we, you are a blessing to the world. So we receive these gifts and move them forward through our community and the larger community and across the planet, that each person can see the blessing that they live, the blessing that they are, express the blessing that they are, and in doing so, create heaven on earth, a world that works for all. And let us do that in our lifetime. So it is. Amen. Okay. Well,
Announcement.
we are going to do some announcements, right? Everybody's jumping up to do the closing circle, but we got announcements. We tried, yeah. So your class starts in September. September 21st, 10 a.m. in the morning. Okay, there'll be more. Books are already out in the foyer, so pick one up. There's also spiritual economics, which is going to be our Sunday series starting in September, and those books are out there too. So if you want to get a jump on either one of those classes, feel free. The normal things that are on the website, of course. We got meditations here. We got meditations on Zoom. We have, on Wednesday, we have the High Watch prayer and meditation time. So there's lots of things to get involved with. We also have, for the month of September, your brand new refrigerator cards. They're out in the foyer as well, so take one home. This has all the stuff that really is going on that you think, what the heck was Goldsmith talking about up there? It's on here. It's on the card. So you can ground truth it from there. And finally, I'd like to remind everybody of the prayer box in the back of the sanctuary. There's a powerful thing that happens in that box when you do your forgiveness, do your gratitude, seek assistance. By writing it down, putting it in the box. The church itself prays over it for a week, and then we send it on to Silent Unity for 30 days additional prayer. And there's a lot of power that comes from doing that. In addition, myself and maybe Mary Dean would be available for personal prayer back in the chapel. If you're so interested, just grab one of us before we leave and be happy to pray with you. So now, let us join in a circle, and we will close it down. we know the light of God
surrounds
surrounds us. The
The
love of God impulses
enfolds
us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And as we prepare to ring the gong and to blow out our candles, know that the vibration of the gong and the smoke of the fires are carrying up your prayers to the ethers.
And we all unite in a special thank you to Tom. Tom,
Yes.
let's all say, Tom, we love you, we bless you, we behold the Christ in you, and know that we're reflecting back to you the gift you gave to us this day.
Tom, we love you, we bless you, we behold the Christ in you.
And so it is, we go forth blessed and blessing to do that which is ours to do for the betterment of all.
And in the light of God, we shine, and in the love of God, we embrace, and as the power of God, we stand in truth. And in the presence of God, we endeavor to express our divinity in all that we do.
Go forth and bless and be blessed. You are loved. Have a wonderful week. Have a great week.
Thank you. You did. I suddenly realized that I had this other copy, but it was in a different